Cool. All right. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you are doing well. Today we're going to be talking with a couple of members of one of the hottest and most exciting bands out of the UK. Right now we have Lewis Evans and Tyler Hyde of the band Black Country New Road. A new record is out now, reviewed it on the channel recently. Love it. A lot of you guys are loving it as well. I've been getting lots of feedback and lots of passionate comments and everything from you guys about how much you're loving the LP. It's your album of the year, this, that, and the other thing. Even some comments about like, is it going to be better than the Black Country, not the Black Country, but the Black Midi record? Is the Black Midi record going to be better than this one? There's a competition going on. I don't know. We're going to talk about their connections and everything else to do with the new LP. The new LP through the conversation. But just to kind of kick off, welcome to you guys, and thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This is a big honor.
Thank you.
No, it isn't. Stop it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
no,
it is.
I don't lie.
Yeah.
We're just hanging out on the internet. We're just three very online folks. That's really all it is. So the new record is out now. You have had quite a bit of time to just kind of soak in the reception of it. I guess especially through the online space, since you haven't been able to kind of perform and tour the whole thing live yet. But as far as the comments and reviews that you're getting, surprised, floored, excited to take this thing on the road?
All of those things. It's ridiculous. This is just like music that came about through the seven of us. Like essentially just pissing about for a year or two or three, and then it came together in an album, and it's stupid and amazing, and we're very grateful, but it just doesn't make sense.
Lewis, the same?
Yeah.
I say thinking about we did work very, very hard on it.
Yeah.
But, we're not naturally good at what we do. We try very hard, but it's insane.
It's been really crazy. I think like especially at the start of around the release, it was really easy to get sucked into all of it and see the reception and what everyone was like saying about it, and then for as many people as saying they really like it, there's people who hate it, obviously, as it is with everything, and it's like it's not always easy to read people being mean about it, being mean about you. So I kind of just stopped reading all about it. So I've been told from friends and stuff and those kind of things, like what people think about it, and it's been really amazing. We couldn't have possibly imagined it coming this well. It's really, really, really
But it is
exciting.
the best tactic to just not read anything. And just to hear through word of mouth that, people love it, people hate it. You just kind of suck it up, and it's all good.
There are a ton of, I guess, kind of like introductory questions I wanted to go through, but kind of hopping off of a few things that you guys had just kind of mentioned there. One of the things that strikes me, especially about the lyricism of the LP, and maybe this kind of connects to the band receiving reception for their work in the way that they have, but a lot of the stories are kind of marked with this extreme sensitivity to the intensity of the world around it. You know, it's almost like there's a pressure to just kind of existing in the spaces that are described in these songs that is almost like crushing. And I mean, how much of an actual like reality or a non-exaggeration is that, for you guys personally, and how does that sort of, impact your ability to exist as a band, and I guess, take things like feedback, as you were just kind of saying, and those receptions that you're seeing on the internet?
You're talking specifically about the lyrics?
Yeah.
Isaac has a very different way of looking at the world to all of us. All seven of us have a very different way of looking at the world.
Sure.
We might be best friends, but he articulates things in a way that we couldn't, and maybe we don't even experience it like that. So I don't know. I don't feel like I personally relate to a lot of what he says in the lyrics, but which can be weird because that is what the majority of people will remember and recognize and think about the most. So it can be kind of weird when someone says that they really like your music, but then they start talking about the lyrics, because I personally wasn't responsible for that, and I'm not connected to them they exist as a separate entity from the music.
Oh no, I mean that's totally understandable, and interesting that you kind of illustrate the creative dynamic there and where sort of like those messages and points of view are coming from, because as you were kind of saying, even though the lyrics may be coming from a singular and a personal place, they do sort of like in a way represent the band as a whole, because it's kind of being released under the same umbrella, Yeah. But still, having said that, would you be able to go a little bit into how exactly the band formed and everybody kind of came to cross paths? I mean, I think if anything, is instantaneously noticeable about the group is that it's a fairly large band, and it's a lot of kind of stars aligning in order for things to roll out in the way that they have.
Yeah, we mostly met at sixth form college in Cambridge.
When we were 16?
Yeah, 16. We started playing together and have been playing together since then, really. We met Georgia when I went to music school in London, and then she joined the band, and then that band ended, and then we moved on and started this new band. And since then, it's just kind of felt like a bit of a no-brainer that we all play together. I think people sometimes ask, like, in interviews and stuff, they ask like, "Oh, why have you got such crazy instruments in your band and stuff?" But it's kind of not really. We've never really gone into it thinking like, right, this needs violin and keys with saxophone. We've always just thought like, we're mates, we play together. I think that's always been the main focus for us, really. I think.
Mm-hmm. And when you all originally crossed paths, because and started playing together, I mean, the band does come to the table with a pretty specific sound. Was this as a result of, I guess, maybe certain or particular members kind of pushing for a certain style or advocating that things stylistically go in a certain direction, or did everyone kind of enter into the fold with maybe similar music tastes or something like that?
Actually, it's more of like 7 people having lots of different interests, and there's a very finite amount of possibilities you can have that you create with that. So the melting pot that is Black Country New Road is just like one of the like final solutions, one of the only solutions that there is to like all these different influences that people have. But then when it came to something like Klezmer, though, that was a bit different, because Lewis and Georgia had been taught Klezmer from a young age, and that had influenced the way that they improvised. And when we began writing, a lot of that was improvisation, so that was a bit more informed, but the rest of it is kind of random to some extent.
I guess to go specifically into the Klezmer stuff, which a lot of fans have kind of picked up on, I mean, was that kind of, a part of the band's sound and DNA from the get-go, or was that something as songs kind of developed, started to come more into play?
Well, I mean, I always felt like that was what I had to say of rock music. I mean, I haven't listened to that much rock music, and I don't listen to that much rock music, so I felt like it worked. The sound worked. The whole, like, what we were going for quite early on, the post-punk thing, dark vibe, angsty dark vibe. It worked over the top of it, because it's quite. I think it's quite fun music. So I think it needed a bit of a breath of fresh air, personally. So it felt like a natural thing to put over the top of it. And yeah, I think that's and because it's because I learned it, or not learned it, but I was exposed to it at a young age. It comes through in my improvisation all the time, and it always feels like a really natural sound that for me to play. Kind of feels like my home sound to my kind of default mode.
It works well with like the post-punk sound, because it's essentially like what party music in a minor key. Is that the way thing? And that was kind of what we were doing. But also, we weren't like trying to do the post-punk thing as well. It was just like the easy way of releasing some kind of angst and emotion that was, available at the time. There were so many bands that we were playing with around us that were kind of doing the same thing. It's just like a very easy way to get a emotional feeling across. Just like thrash your guitars, play really loud at this point, build up, and it wasn't very thought through, to be honest, that sound.
I mean, that may be the case, but I mean, I think not overthinking it has kind of led you guys to this unique place anyway, where you're kind of sitting. And to sort of jump specifically into the improvisation that you were talking about, you know, you guys together playing are kind of cutting your teeth, not just as writers, but obviously improvers too. Is that what, you know, sort of led to the decision to some of the early material that fans were familiar with getting sort of, you know, totally redone away and rearranged and, you know, put back together for the formal album release?
Yeah, I think also there's a bit of that. I think we like to think on our feet a little bit. We don't want to be too improvised. We don't want to be jamming for an hour when we're playing a gig. But also, I think like we get quite bored easily of doing the same thing over and over again, especially live. And I don't want to be playing gigs and not be enjoying what I'm doing. And it's not fair that so many people have to do that, you know. So many people go on and play the same version of the song every night. And it's like hats off to them that can do that. But I think we're not like mature enough to do that. So we've changed them up so much. And I know people have all gotten quite annoyed by it, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's just music, isn't it? So
yeah. And also like we're so tired, we're bored, and then we'll just put on a bad show. And also like personally, just within the group, because we're all so close, if Lewis is bored, that boredom spreads to all of us. We can sense it, you know. Everyone has to be happy and really enjoying it while they're playing.
Yeah.
And also the song changes also come from the fact that we wrote them like in 2018 now, start of 2018. Some of them were written, and that is so long ago, and we're all such different people from then. I mean, when you're in your 20s and your late teens, you grow so much and you change as people so much. You get exposed to so much more stuff. You see the world a bit differently. And I know we're still very young, but we're very different people to who we were when we were, we were 19 or something, when some of those songs were first written.
And we play different.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably, hopefully better at our instruments.
So it felt like a bit of a no-brainer to change them up loads. And why not as well?
It's interesting to kind of hear what you're talking about in regards to feeling almost like you know, the boredom or kind of angst of other members, and having to make sure that is kind of handled so that everything kind of can be cohesive and functional. You know, are you guys finding that as you move forward as a group that that there needs to be a lot of attention paid toward things being creatively or expressively kind of democratic, and kind of giving people either, you know, writing space, suggestion space, improv space to do what they do, so that this band continues to, you know, be a positive outlet for everyone?
Yeah, totally. It's incredibly democratic. There's much less improvisation now than there ever was. It doesn't really exist anymore. And we have to make sure that everyone's on the same page. We have to call someone out if, like, in practice they're being quiet, and we need to make sure that everyone's okay, because otherwise it's not going to work. And that's why Black Country New Road works, is because we're this, you know, loving family. And if anyone's upset, we feel that unhappiness. That's fair to say. Like geese.
I know that you guys can't speak specifically to you know, Isaac's lyrics on the new record, but you know, one of the things that it had me wondering about you know, the writing on the LP is that a lot of the stories are so personal and so specific and so experiential. And as you guys were just kind of saying, you know, you wrote these songs at a certain point when you were in your lives at a certain place, and you've undergone so many changes, you know, since then. From what you know and what your experience has been so far, like as far as the next record is kind of coming together, you know, are we going to be honing in as much on, like, you know, specific occurrences happening, you know, and writing based solely off of that? Or, you know, the stories that we're going to be hearing going forward, are they going to be reaching from maybe wider places?
It feels, from what I've heard so far from the lyrics, feels a bit wider, a bit less. I don't know really. I can't really hear the lyrics because because we're quite loud in a practice room. So, but from what I can tell, I think it's quite I think it's a bit more thematic and epic than the older stuff. Not that the older stuff isn't epic; it's obviously epic, but epic in a different.
We're calling it
way.
epic sad.
Sad,
It's
yeah.
the theme of the next album.
Yeah, almost like an Odyssey sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is sort of I guess something I wonder about as to whether or not the band, as you guys continue to write and continue to jam, does the fact that you're writing in a way to an audience now, and you're writing almost with like expectations in a way, which this is a difficult record, I think, to come away with expectations for, because you guys are just like pulling from so many different places stylistically, and the writing on the record that we were just talking about is so idiosyncratic. It feels like kind of the sky is the limit, and that creatively you could still kind of go anywhere, even just kind of considering the fact that, you know, those older versions of those tracks kind of morphed so much before they reached the final version of the record.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think.
Sorry, it wasn't a question. It was just more of an observation.
Yeah.
I think it's true. I think we're definitely honing in on something a lot more in this record. It's a lot less like, whoa, look at what we can do, which I think that first record kind of is, and I think in a good way, but in a bit of a in a young person way. And I think we're making old music now.
It's totally naive back
Yeah.
But also, when you say the sky's the limit, like that, then leaves so much, questioning as to what the next album will be. No one can really predict what will happen. I mean, I did just say it's going to be sad, epic, but that could be one of many things.
Yeah.
But from that, we have chosen a specific theme, and you might not expect it. Although you might do, because it does hint towards things like Track X, and Basketball Shoes is going to be on it, and a few others that are out there.
Yeah.
A little while ago, you guys were talking about how, you know, just through sheer experience and musical background, how something like Klezmer kind of plays into, you know, the band's sound. But I also wanted to talk about how even something like post-punk does that, specifically, you know, in regards to Tyler. I mean, this is out there already, so I'm, you know, not trying to blow up your spot, but Carl Hyde is your father. You know, considering that, you know, musical background as well, I mean, you know, what was it like kind of being immersed in a world where, you know, you have a parent, someone in your life who's kind of making incredible throughways in the music world, you know, specifically electronic music, and, you know, sort of how that kind of rubbed off on you in a way?
It made me dislike electronic music for years and years and years. And then when I was about 18, started listening to his band and electronic music and realized I loved it. That was all that happened, really. I mean, I guess living in a house full of guitars made me pick up a guitar, and that's why I'm in a band. He didn't talk about music, really. He didn't want me to get into the music industry because of how horrible it is. And that's it. But I guess, you know, having guitars around is why I'm here. So.
And, you know, I guess speaking generally about, I guess, kind of the musical backgrounds that both of you have come from, and getting into music and recording and starting this band at such a young age, I mean, so far, I guess, what has been the family reception across the board of like the music you guys are recording and the reception that it's getting? And do the moms and dads like it?
They love it. Well, I mean, there are mums though, so they'll always say that, you know. You can't really. I love my mother, but you can't really trust her.
My dad is a massive fan. He loves it.
Oh, you can believe it.
He's so into that. My mum told me. I think my mum was so happy when she heard Track X for the first time, because I think she finally liked one of our songs. And
girls on it.
Maybe, but I think also because it's a bit lighter on the ears.
Yeah.
So
That's quite promising though, because it means that perhaps if that's the direction we're going in for the second album, maybe it's going to open up
it'd be
the
great.
right people that are going to like the music.
It'd be so sick if the audience was just people that were like my mum.
It would. Listen, I love your mum.
Like, are we talking about like if we start putting it like, has there been much merch so far? Are they like wearing the shirts or anything, or, you know?
My dad's got a tote bag and he wore it into Sainsbury's.
Got it.
And what else? He's got. I gave him one of the. We had those quite the cool Japanese release.
Oh, the
shirts
long t-shirts.
I gave him one of them, and he wears that every now and again.
But I don't see anyone wearing the merch.
What, around and about?
Around and about.
No.
It'll take some time. I think, honestly, like a lot of that stuff just kind of like spreads through the live experience, and then people are like hyped to wear it because they sort of associate that memory with it and everything. So I mean, I think once you guys are playing live, you'll see it out and about more.
I think everyone's spent all their merch money on Idols shirts. So you see a stupid amount of Idols t-shirts when you're out and about in London. It's absolutely crazy.
It's the most seen item.
More than, like, it's on par with Nirvana t-shirts.
Oh, I see more Idols than Nirvana these days. More than Oasis.
In North and East London, you see so much Idols merch.
And everyone looks like they're in Idols.
Yeah.
I wonder, I have to ask, is over there, just because it didn't come up, as you guys are kind of mentioning, is over there, is the Unknown Pleasures shirt as much of a meme over there as it is over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope so. Are the Idol shirts on track to replace the Unknown Pleasures shirts, or?
It's a bit older than the kind of soft boy vibe. I think.
Yeah.
It's like it's a little bit. You'd probably be like in your 30s if you've got an Idol shirt on, and if you're in your 30s and you're a soft boy, then God help you.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Look, I know I was teasing a little bit at the start of the interview, but I only ask because there are so many fans who sort of have latched onto this narrative of like who's going to be dropping the best post-punk or experimental rock record this year, and obviously Black Midi comes up a lot in the conversation, and I wanted to ask you guys specifically about them because I know that you've crossed over creatively in the past. Would you be able to talk about a little bit of kind of discuss the kinship that you have with that group, and if there's any sort of like maybe creative interplay that we're going to see in the future at some point?
Oh, well, we've done these Christmas gigs with them the past 2 years, and I don't see why that's not going to happen again. They were just, when we were in our last band, that's when we saw them for the first time at the Windmill, and they were just these young kids from Brit school, and I was like, who the hell are these guys? And then they turned out to be the best band in the world. They're just great dudes. There's nothing much more to say than that. I think visually the concept they're going for at the moment with, I don't know if you've seen the like chef shoot and the dentist shoot and the fireman shoot of all the different outfits that they're wearing. I think they're great with their aesthetic. They're the best band in the world, and there's no sense of rivalry. There's just like admiration. I think Cam, who plays bass for them, is the person I look up to most as a bassist, and it scares me to some extent. When we do these Christmas gigs and we have to do improvisation, the first time we did it, I didn't play sometimes because I was so scared, but now it's just inspiration to be better at what I do. They're awesome dudes.
To get a little nerdy and personal about it, what kind of bass do you play?
Fender Precision.
Nice.
But I'm after something smaller, actually, if anyone can suggest anything, because I've got back problems, so I'm looking for it's a big bass. It's a really big bass. Which you'll love. I've got back problems. I've got repetitive strain injuries.
In my own experience, as far as like the Fender Precisions go, I found that, a lot of what makes those basses so good is, like neck quality and like pickup quality and stuff like that. A lot of the Squiers that they come out with, which is like, it's the same model. It's the same, body and sort of trademark, and they just sort of, lent it out to another company to release it. A lot of the bodies that they put in the Squier because of the wood that they use are lighter. And you could sort of like swap electronics out from one, bring it to a shop, have them sort of like swap out all the parts and everything. And, you'll have all the things that make it sound as quality as you expect, but it'll be a lighter body. There's short scale stuff out there too that you could look for, but you might pay out the ass for
I'm
it.
considering that.
That sounds quite cool. I don't know much
cool.
about guitars, but I think Squires are cooler than Fenders.
Ooh.
But,
No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's like as good as the Fenders are quality wise, a lot of them can be really freaking heavy. Like even for me, after like, you know, rocking one for a while, you just want to put it the fuck down.
I mean, now I'm sitting down all the time because of my old back. And it's kind of influenced. I don't know if I'm influencing other people. We've all just decided to sit down. The next album, you have to stand up.
I know, yeah.
Just, you know, you're playing your tenor.
Yeah.
But everyone, I think album 2 is going to be a chill one where we all sit down to perform.
Yeah.
Got it. You were talking a little bit about a while ago about you know, Black Midi's kind of presentational aesthetics with the, you know, the suits and the dressing and everything. You know, but in the way you guys have presented yourselves, you obviously put quite a bit of thought into the way the band looks, and certain bits of promotional art come off, because there's, you know, certainly a kind of minimalism that runs through everything. And I think, you know, a purposeful simplicity to the dress style in a lot of, you know, pictures. I mean, I think I made a comment about how a lot of the pictures of the band look like a stock photo, which, you know, I don't mean in sort of like an insulting way. You know, it's very,
exactly what it is.
Do you know what was weird?
Yeah. So I want to know kind of what drives that.
What was weird was when we did all of the like promo shoots and stuff, and it all came out and they were all out in the open. You're getting so many people saying like, oh, they look like they're on a French GCSE exercise book. Oh, they look like a bunch of Labour Party society students at uni, and like all of this stuff. And I was like, shit, we actually do just dress like that. and like, it's not like, and the only thing they were just like, wear block colours. That was the only thing that they said. And so we just did that, but that's all our clothes. That's all stuff that we would just wear.
I mean, I got here today, and Lewis and I are doing this interview, and I walk in, and Lewis are both wearing a white shirt and black trousers and smart shoes.
I think we're all just trying to go for it. It doesn't quite pull it off, but I think if we're all wearing Yankees caps, we're all just trying to go for like film directors from the 90s.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think that's the vibe.
Honestly, it's like, it's a look, and it's not like there's not a history of it. I mean, a lot of my favorite groups from the new wave just like would hit the stage with a button shirt and slacks. And and weren't trying.
That just seems like clothes to me.
Yeah, I think you guys are bringing that simple sort of like semi-professional dress, you know, dress casual style back. I think it works.
But I mean, okay, let's get serious for a second. A lot of the thinking behind it is to try and like remove any kind of personality that any of the 7 of us have. We just want to have Black Country Road as this like whole form, this one entity that isn't made up of like Lewis and Tyler and Isaac and whoever. You know, we're just simple people that are just playing music, and it's about the music, not us.
Mm-hmm. Okay. To sort of talk also about some of the photos that you guys have used, you know, I mean, is it kind of like the same philosophy behind that as well as sort of like, you know, the stock photo, you know, usage in some of your promotional stuff too? Just to sort of like, you know, have kind of like a clean, you know, almost like, I'm trying to, I can't like, you know, put a word to it, but, you know, there's definitely like a certain kind of aesthetic to it. Is there anything else beyond sort of like just putting the focus on the music and there not being any other distractions to it other than that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's a guy that does the art for it who kind of just approached us on an underpass in like Euston, who said, I'm doing your art, and we didn't know anything about
That's
it.
a pitch.
And his name was Bart.
His name was Bart. He said, I'm Bart the art.
Yeah.
I'm doing your art. And he and so he just decided to start doing it and held us to ransom. So we had no choice about the matter, and we've just started doing it.
We have no influence in it at all. We couldn't say anything about it. He literally just took over and started posting on the internet all these images, attaching our music to it, and we can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Nothing, but
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think. I mean, it's 7-1. You guys can outnumber the guy, or just?
Yeah, we're all pacifists.
I got it.
and incredibly weak. As long as your back pain playing bass.
Keep, honestly, I think after ignore my advice. I think after a full tour with the bass, it's just going to be so many muscles popping back there. It's just going to be like.
It's true. I guess I'm out of practice with touring. But also, I don't want to hench back.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not my vibe.
Not the vibe.
Leonardo.
I also wanted to ask you guys how exactly, now that we're kind of understanding how the art has come together, how exactly did the label come together? Because if anybody who is kind of familiar with the history of Ninja Tune, I mean, Ninja Tune is most known for its, adherence to the electronic scene. So how did things kind of, end up where you guys are landing on that as opposed to like, I don't know, a Matador or a Sub Pop or something like that?
We liked them because they weren't like a guitar label, and they were taking a risk with us, so it was nice because we were also taking a risk. We'd never signed a record deal. We were really new to everything. Our manager obviously wasn't new to all of it and was like, look, these guys are really good. They're really nice, and we got on really well with them. Everything was good, so we were like, yeah, why not? I mean, it didn't matter too much for us to do the whole slot into a guitar label because they know what you should do. Everything that they say, they give us ideas that we like and we take them on board. They give us ideas that we don't like and they're happy if we don't want to do them. So it's like it's a great situation to be in, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of liberty, and also because they aren't like a rock label, they didn't have like a legacy to back it up with. There's a lot of labels out there that rely on their legacy in order to attract people onto their label, and so for that, Ninja had to make a big effort to tell us what they were going to do and what they were going to offer us, and we liked how passionate they were. They were so
they do
passionate.
have a legacy
They have a legacy, but of course, I'm not saying no legacy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to a label of that style, for them to really kind of go out of their way to sign you guys, it sort of shows they must be really interested, since this is sort of out of their wheelhouse just a little bit.
And especially because they're such a cool label as well. Like,
yeah.
If a cool label wants us, why wouldn't we say yes?
Yeah. And, on top of that, it's like, exactly. And, on top of that, even though there are more rock oriented labels out there, it's not as if you guys wouldn't have stuck out in a unique way on those rosters as well, so it's not exactly like there would have been a roster that you would have melted into perfectly where there's 7 other bands that sound just like you. And even if that was the case, would that even be something that you'd want? You want to stick out, you want people to notice you.
Yeah. And for that reason, kind of like what you're saying, every label kind of looks the same to us because we're not really going to fit in that well anywhere.
I wanted to throw a few fan questions in here, specific stuff about the music, performing, that sort of thing. I'm getting a lot of questions about that. People want to know if you'll be playing when, tour starts. Older tracks like, will Kendall Jenner be making it into rotation on sets? No?
Never again. It's not that good.
It's really not that good.
Everyone keeps talking about it like it's sick, but they just think they've got. I feel like that they never knew they loved it till they let it go, and now it's gone, and they're like, oh no! But it will never ever be played again. Ever.
That's literally anything. The minute
exactly.
you take something away or something's gone, that becomes everyone's favorite thing.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that good.
It really wasn't. We've got so much better music.
There you go. Take it from the band. It's not as good as you guys think it is. As far as other touring plans are going, are there plans to hit all of Europe, America, Australia? What are you guys hoping to accomplish as far as dates in 2022, I imagine?
We'll be in the US in 2022.
Yes.
Hopefully.
If the world commits. And yes.
Yeah, as far as like the touring stuff goes, I mean, we're all still kind of crossing our fingers at this point, you know. But it's just sort of a shame that you know, through people I know in the booking industry, it's like in order for all of those 2022 dates to happen, we need to start thinking about it in 2021. So it's like there's still like a lot of everyone's hoping and guessing and just kind of praying that it's going to be the case. But speaking more generally about the pandemic stuff, was there any way that sort of like, I don't know, having to stay separate, maybe more separate than you would have liked to over this course of time, impacted, I guess, kind of the creative process, jamming, being able to kind of stay tight and cohesive as a band and make this record become the record that you wanted it to make?
Yeah, loads. I mean, are you talking about the first record?
Yeah, the record that you just dropped. Yeah.
Yeah, that was done before the pandemic.
Oh, okay. We'll speak.
We recorded that a week before, and then hadn't done the vocals, and then we went into a national lockdown and couldn't do the vocals for about 3 months. So we were just sitting on that for ages. But what the pandemic has done is changed our writing style completely.
For the better.
Yeah, I'd say for the better. It's harder to tell. We used to kind of write songs as we played them live, and that isn't happening, which I find a bit harder because I like doing that. I liked kind of playing these songs that were tight, but we didn't really know what we wanted from them. And so we have to be much more self-reflective with our music that we write now, because we're having to analyze it without getting feedback from it. So without getting feedback from other people. So that's changed a lot. So I think that is going to massively affect the sound of the second record. It's going to be a much, much more dialed in, whether that's good or bad, in our opinion, really awesome. But whether that, like, it's going to be a really dialed in sound that is, so, which is something we really didn't do in the first album. So that's it's a way more thought through, picked apart like album of songs.
And
because of the pandemic,
like before, like if we had a song that was finished and we'd practiced it several times and we thought we really liked it, then we'd take it to stage and then it might change a bit, but we wouldn't ever actually interrogate it because we would just base it purely on like how the audience took it. But whereas now we don't have that, so we have to be the audience to some extent, if that makes sense, and we have to be the ones that emotionally interrogate it while we're playing it. And for that, I think they're just better songs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's I guess comforting to know that even though I guess kind of the attention and the hype and explosion of the band has been recent, you guys do have experience of kind of playing and being together as a group, you know, prior to the lockdowns and everything like that. You have that to go off of. But, you know, considering that, you know, this whole thing has kind of impacted the writing process of recent work, and maybe, you know, what will become the next record, will ultimately the plan be to, you know, regardless of how that pans out, make sure that everything kind of gets back together into one space and everyone's sort of in one spot and just kind of, you know, jamming at it again? Or do you think, you know, this experience has kind of changed the writing dynamics of the group?
It's definitely changed the writing dynamics, I think. I much prefer it this way.
Yeah, I think we all do.
It feels really nice, and sometimes it can be tetchy, but everyone has their say. Other people didn't have their say, but everyone is encouraged more to have their say. And we're being very, like, if someone is not, if we're reading the room all the time when we're writing stuff now, which didn't happen as much as it could have done in the first record, I think. And so whatever comes out, it will be a much, much more true reflection of us as a group of 7 people. And also, like, it's just an album, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out in the same way that this first one did, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just a bunch of songs, and if we like them, then I'll be happy about it. If we don't like them, then obviously, like, back to plan B. But, you know, I think we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves. We're just making music that we like, and that it's all music that I would buy on a on a record. If I heard it, I'd buy it.
Which
So
I think we both agree is different compared to the first album. Lewis and I think no one in the band listens to the first album, whereas, you know, just writing the demos, you're recording the demos for this new album, actually exciting. It's actually something that I'd listen to, which is weird because I don't know what side you're meant to be on. Are you meant to like want to listen to your music, or are you meant to not want to listen to your music? I don't know what's the right way to be, but it feels nice to have such faith in it.
It throws up a load of questions, but I mean, like, I love it. I love the stuff. I love it.
Honestly, as maybe as dismissive and heartbreaking as it might sound to fans of, you know, tracks like the Kendall track, you know, I think as an artist, you should always be excited about your newest stuff and always feel like you're, you know, doing something exciting and you're just on the cusp of something. I think to just kind of, you know, live in the past will just kind of be the detriment to whatever you're doing in the future.
But that's where like recording albums is really weird because the process is so delayed. So by the time it comes out, you've already written the next album and you're really excited about that.
Right.
So when you ask about how do you feel about the reception that you got for this album, it's hard to be in that space and also be in the space of the current time, which is like the next album. And that's what we're hyped about, but we can't say anything.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and then you think about beyond that, just sort of like the familiarity the audience is sort of like, and the emotional connections they're creating to whatever you've done in the past. And then they're just like, you know, I'm not trying to like, you know, put something in your head, you know, just thinking about, because ultimately I agree with what you're saying about, you know, it's just an album. If the world doesn't go crazy for it, I mean, it's whatever. We're moving on to the next project. We're still making music. We're still artists. We're still focused on what we're doing in the future. I can't tell you. I mean, I've been, you know, reviewing for over a decade, and there are artists that I've reviewed 6-7 times. And, you know, sometimes the reviews are super positive. Sometimes they're not super positive. But like, you know, as long as everyone's still trying and progressing and doing something new and exciting down the road, there's going to be reason to cross over again and connect. And there will be more music to talk about at some point. So, I wanted to ask you guys kind of a little bit more about the reception thing, especially being a young band. Look, I mean, I've given the record a lot of positive praise. I love the record. You know, I love the unique qualities of the record, and I love the qualities of the record that remind me of some groups in the past that I'm a big fan of, which there seems to be at least like a little bit of self-awareness, especially, you know, in lyrics, likening the band to like the second greatest Slint tribute act or whatever. You know, and just to kind of rant on that, I think there are some guitar passages that remind me of their music, but outside of that, there's not really too much more to go off of. And those guitar passages that do remind me of their stuff, I love. You know, I think it's rare that you hear a band kind of genuinely embodying their stuff in a way that feels true and authentic and not tacky, even if it is intentional or unintentional. But that being said, being a young band, like, and again with the self-awareness in the lyrics, but what do you generally think about these kinds of comparisons? I mean, are they happening too much? Are they too dismissive? Or are people kind of thinking about it in the wrong way?
I think people are thinking about it in the wrong way. It's amazing to be compared to Slint. I mean, I don't know that much about rock music, but they're sick, and to be compared to a sick band is awesome. And I think like when people are like, oh, this sounds like this, oh, this doesn't sound like themselves enough. Like there's probably like 5 people ever who have ever sounded like themselves. And one of them I know, no one who is saying this stuff knows who they are because he's called Pete and he plays in little Cambridge venues and he makes music from the future. So no, it doesn't like, I just don't think it matters that much. If it's good, then it's good, and it doesn't have to be. I think music should be picked apart, but I don't think it should be picked. It always feels negative when people pick it apart from this. Oh, it sounds like Slint, or like I don't know, like oh, Mozart sounds like Beethoven sometimes. You know, like what does it matter? It doesn't matter. It's all good. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Doesn't like. It's great that we get compared to Slint because they rock and they're a sick band.
Yeah.
And
but is it not useful sometimes if you're trying to talk about a band and to a friend and they don't know what they sound like?
Yeah. I agree with that. I like it when people do it like that. Like, oh, it sounds like this. It sounds a bit like this. Got a bit of that to it. But when it's like, oh, this is just an obvious Slint rip-off. I'm sounding like I've been really affected by these comments, which I have slightly, but
he says he doesn't read anything.
But you know, it's like people use it as I don't like it when people use it as a weapon so much as they should use it as something that is like a way of making someone aware of something without them hearing it. In a non-negative way.
It's a description.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it feels weird having to call this out because some people would probably say I make too many comparisons, or, you know, I'm certainly guilty of having made a negative comparison of one thing to another thing in the past. But to me, that one just specifically hits me in a weird way because I love Slint's music. And I think it makes sense for you specifically to like them too, saying that, you know, you're not, that you don't have this rock background and they're such like an atypical rock band. You know, they don't necessarily like structure their songs like rock bands typically did before that. But being a fan of their stuff, it's rare that I run across anybody that genuinely takes any like, you know, sure, lots of people like kind of pose and say, oh yeah, I've heard this record, Spiderland, it's a classic, like it's so great. But I rarely hear anybody like genuinely embodying their stuff in any way. And to the degree that is the case for you guys, do the vocals sound the same? No. Are there these bold jazz and klezmer influences in their music? Absolutely fucking not. Like, there's so many aspects to your sound that are totally divergent from anything and everything that they did that I think it's kind of weird to sort of just obsess over that like one similarity. But maybe it's kind of a case of like, there aren't a lot of bands that I think I could say, oh yeah, they sound exactly like that. So maybe the most noticeable group that people can think of, they kind of hone in on that one thing and they're like, oh, I made this connection in my head. I'm so smart for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're kind of like the Air Force One to Slint's Die Hard, I'd say. Kind of the same film, but one's set on a plane and the other one's set in a tower. Got it.
It's like if I'm trying to, you know, make the I can't. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had a brain fart because I cannot remember films. I can't remember films.
That's all right. Well, Air Force One is where what's he called? Harrison Ford is trying to save the president in. Harrison Ford is the president, and he the whole plane the Air Force One gets sieged, and then Die Hard is Bruce Willis, and the whole building gets sieged. Yeah, you remember Die Hard, right?
Yes. No, I was thinking. No, the comparison I was trying to make because it just dawned on me was if Slint was Alien, you guys are Prometheus.
Right. Sorry, I just totally was.
That's more insulting.
Is it insulting? What, is Prometheus a bad film?
No. We're Prometheus.
Prometheus is a sick film, in my opinion. I don't know.
I'm a huge Alien fan.
Okay.
So Prometheus, I did like.
If they're Wayne's World, we're Wayne's World too, you know.
But hey, you know, at least we know that.
Arguably better film.
I think we're starting to get into like the film influences of the band at this point. Yeah. You know, it's like the way that film sort of inspires the group. You know, again, and not to dive too deeply into the lyrics because obviously Isaac's not here, but I did get a few questions about this. But you know, sort of more generally speaking, you know, would you guys say that there are some, I don't know, overt literary and, you know, poetic influences, you know, that are kind of informing the band's sound, style, and narrative from here? Or is it all just like kind of coming from this explosive, emotional, kind of personal place?
Yeah, the latter, I think.
I think Isaac says he reads a lot more than he reads, but I've never seen him read a book before.
I've seen him place a book on in his room.
He's got books on display, but does he read the books? You know what I mean?
You're right.
But yeah,
Gravity's Rain.
It could just be for show. We don't know if he's actually reading anything. You know,
I've never seen him read a book, so
I've never seen him open a book.
I've seen him finish a book, loads. Oh, what a great read!
You know,
you must read it.
You know, honestly, I think that's all of us. So I think we're all. I think none of us are reading as much as people probably think we're reading, or that we look like we're reading, or that we want to show people we're reading. We're just not reading that much.
I've read very few books that my dad hasn't read to me.
Well, that's good to know. Well, you know, honestly, I think that it's good that you guys say that because, you know, given that when a band or a singer-songwriter's lyrics are so verbose and are so wordy, it's almost like there's a presumption of like as they're writing their lyrics, there's a book there, and you know, there's like an inkwell and a quill, and it's just, I'm just like, I'm just like, you know, I'm just so inspired by the works of Bukowski. I just have to get all of this out. You know, so yeah.
All I see is words.
So no, it's good that you guys sort of demystify that in a way.
I'm sure I'd like it if I tried, but it just takes a bit long, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, just like other, I guess, internet media sources are almost like, you know, replacing it, you know, almost like that in a lot of ways, and the whole audiobook wave as well as, and I don't know if like I think that kind of slowly that, I guess, art form is morphing and is kind of sliding into something else, or maybe even sort of like changing in terms of its prominence. And I wonder if like something will be lost over the course of that change that we're not sort of noticing because it's kind of like slowly kind of falling into the background.
Podcasts.
Yeah. Well, thank you for contributing to that in your own personal way, as I am as well, because I'll admit I'm not as avid a reader as I probably could or should be. All right. Well,
That's so great.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it, really? Like taking in words.
Yeah, I mean,
as is this.
Yeah, we're just doing.
Do you know what? Anyone who's watched this, you've got a free pass from me. You've read a book today.
We're just doing words right here. We're just saying them out on Twitch. That's all. All right. Listen, guys, it's been great. I appreciate you coming through and having this conversation with me. It's been jovial and friendly. You two have been open books, and thank you for just kind of letting us into the process and, you know, kind of sharing your experience and letting us in on this wild ride of the band kind of blowing up in the way that they have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope you have a nice day.
I hope you have a nice.
Everyone have a nice day.
Everyone have a nice day. You guys have a good evening, and
thank you.
Yeah, that's all. Have a good one.
Wicked. Lovely to meet you.
Great to meet you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.